Namaskar, this is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. The Trump quake is shaking the world. The self-proclaimed deal maker is taking mergers and acquisitions to a whole new level. He wants to merge Canada with the US, he wants to acquire Greenland and rename the Gulf of Mexico. Needless to say, all three parties have reacted sharply. He also seems to be training his guns on his BFF, Benjamin Netanyahu, and wants to declare an emergency to impose tariffs. Remember, his presidency has not even begun yet, and the world is on edge. Guess who is taking on him? The one and only Jagmeet Singh. After killing Justin Trudeau's political career, he is shooting the Khalistanis in the foot. Can't complain. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, the wildfires have caused damages worth billions of dollars. In the UK, MPs are targeting Pakistan. They want to freeze aid to Pakistan. We will tell you why. What does the India-Taliban reset mean for both sides? Why is Iran looking to set up a new capital city away from Tehran? Who is the Japanese gang lord who tried to sell nuclear material to Iran? Why has North Korea banned hot dogs? And how India is celebrating its diaspora with the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. The US under Donald Trump won't forcefully take Greenland. That's the assurance being given by the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. She says Trump's comments on the issue are aimed at China. Meloni met the US President-elect in Florida last weekend. Trump has refused to rule out military intervention over Greenland. An international coalition will send 30,000 drones to Ukraine. The announcement was made by the UK, which is leading this group along with Latvia. The Drone Capability Coalition was formed in early 2024. Britain has not shared as to when these drones will be dispatched to Kiev. Lebanon finally gets a president after more than 2 years. The lawmakers elect their army chief for the top job. He is Lebanon's 5th army commander to become president. He now faces the daunting tasks of overseeing a ceasefire on the Israeli border and naming a prime minister. In Myanmar, an airstrike by the junta kills at least 40 people in the Rakhine state. The target was a village under the control of an armed ethnic group. The military is struggling to fight opposition to its rule across the country. More than 3 million people have been displaced by the conflict in Myanmar. And Mozambique's main opposition leader returns home from his self-imposed exile. Thousands show up to welcome him. His return comes a week before the inauguration of the next president. The opposition leader claims the October election was stolen from him and rigged in favor of the ruling party.
The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
¿Por qué no le llamamos América Mexicana? Se oye bonito, ¿no?
Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place.
En México gobierna el pueblo.
And the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers. Record numbers.
Sí, pero no es falso. Es falso.
The gloves are off. Even before taking office, Donald Trump is shaking up US foreign policy. He's picking fights on all fronts. Trump has called Canada America's 51st state. He wants to seize Greenland. And he's also after the Gulf of Mexico. Trump wants to call it the Gulf of America. That's what he said in a press conference earlier this week.
Be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Of course, Mexico is not amused, and of course they've shot back. Leading the charge is Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum. She has put together her own twist to Trump's proposal, calling the US Mexican America.
Obviamente, el Golfo de México es.
The United Nations recognizes the name Gulf of Mexico, but next, why don't we call it Mexican America? It sounds nice, doesn't it?
América Mexicana. Se oye bonito, ¿no?
President Sheinbaum is taking a dig at Donald Trump. He said Gulf of America is a beautiful name. She says Mexican America sounds nice. And she pulled out an entire map to make her point. A very old map. It dates back to 1607. That's 169 years before the United States existed as a country. So that's history lesson plus retort rolled into one.
And the Gulf of Mexico has had that name since 1607, and it's recognized internationally.
The Gulf of Mexico has been known by that name since 1607. It predates the United States by centuries. The name is internationally recognized. Donald Trump cannot simply rename it on a whim. That is the message the Mexican president was sending, and she has a good point. Trump may be able to change names on American maps, but those changes are not binding on others, not even on American states for that matter. They don't have to call it the Gulf of America. If Trump passes an order, they can always overrule it. The American states, they can overrule it. As for Mexico, it is pushing back, but it cannot boycott Trump. President Sheinbaum still wants to engage with him. She thinks that Mexico can share good ties with the U.S. even with Trump at the helm.
I think there will be a good relationship. I don't see why there would be a bad relationship. I think President Trump has his own way of communicating.
What made Sheinbaum say that? Perhaps she's taking cues from her predecessor and mentor, AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He was Mexico's president during Trump's first term, and he faced similar challenges. In his first term, Trump targeted Mexico with import tariffs. He demanded action against immigrants. He wanted to stop the flow of illegal immigrants from Mexico. And Obrador was happy to comply. As president, he ordered a crackdown on illegal immigrants. Sheinbaum is offering a similar collaboration. She has already spelled out the agenda. Immigration containment is on top of the list, followed by security and drug trafficking. You see, leaders across the world are preparing for the Trump presidency in their own way. Some are trying to appease Donald Trump. Others are taking golf lessons just to curry favor with him. But Sheinbaum's approach is different. The Mexican president is confronting Trump on the non-negotiables while offering cooperation on common challenges. Will it work? It's hard to say. Trump remains a mercurial leader. For him, perception is everything, and right now his view of Mexico is far from favorable. He calls it a dangerous place.
They're essentially run by the cartels, and can't let that happen. Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place.
Donald Trump says Mexico is run by cartels, a claim which Mexico has strongly rejected. But Trump remains unmoved. As president, he has pledged to slap 25% tariffs on Mexican imports. His aides are mulling military options. This includes the possibility of a direct attack. They're calling it a soft invasion of Mexico. And here's what it means. Trump's advisors want a covert team of operatives. They could be deployed to Mexico. Their mission to assassinate the cartel leaders. One won't put it past the Americans. They're the masters of political assassinations and regime change, but they seldom do it so brazenly. As for Mexico, they're in for a bumpy 4 years, with the U.S. as their neighbor and Donald Trump its president. No one is safe from Donald Trump, not even his closest buddy, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They had a great bromance in Trump 1.0. He shifted the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He defended Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and he recognized Israel's rights over the Golan Heights. In return, Netanyahu heaped praises on him. He named a settlement after Donald Trump. He called it Trump Heights. But could the honeymoon be over? I ask because of this video. It was reposted by Donald Trump on social media. It features American professor Jeffrey Sachs. He's being interviewed by Trump's ally, Tucker Carlson. The professor talks about America's meddling in Syria and Iraq. He talks about the endless wars in West Asia, and he blames them on Netanyahu. He calls the Israeli Prime Minister an obsessive, deep, dark SOB. Now, Trump has shared this video. The question is why? Why is he trying to amplify this? Does he agree with this assessment? If he does, it's a rapid U-turn, because Trump spoke to Netanyahu only last month. It was said to have been a warm, friendly conversation. And this week, he threatened Hamas. He asked them to return Israeli hostages before he took charge. If not, all hell would break loose. Those were the words he used. So what changed in 24 hours? Chances are nothing. You see, this video has a long caption with it. It talks about how Barack Obama meddled in Syria, how the CIA tried to topple Bashar al-Assad, but the caption does not mention Netanyahu or Israel. So it is possible that Trump only read the caption, that he did not hear the whole thing, and he shared it. And frankly, I don't know which is worse, that Trump is reposting abuses against a world leader, or that he doesn't listen to what he shares. Either way, the damage is done. Netanyahu was supposed to attend Trump's inauguration this month, but reports say he has pulled out. No one is explicitly blaming Trump's video post, but the timing is certainly suspect. And do you know why this confusion exists? Because of his erratic policies. Consider the whole Greenland row. Trump is asking Denmark to hand over Greenland to the US. He says he needs it for national security. Now, Greenland is an autonomous region in Denmark. In simple words, it belongs to them. So Trump is talking about taking over sovereign land, that too from a NATO ally. And this obsession is not new. He first floated this idea back in 2019, but back then he talked about buying Greenland. This time, though, he's not ruling out military action. He wants to take it any way he can. So US allies in Europe are worried. Some of them cannot wrap their heads around it, like Germany's Olaf Scholz. He says he does not understand what Trump means.
In my discussions with our European partners, a certain lack of understanding has emerged with regard to recent statements from the United States. The principle of inviolability of borders applies to every country, regardless of whether it is to the east or west of us.
It is out of the question for the European Union to let any nation in the world, whichever it is, and let me say starting with Russia, to attack its sovereign borders.
But Trump is not de-escalating. He genuinely believes that Greenland wants to join the US.
Yeah, I don't think we had pushback. Greenland is, if you look at the people there, we got tremendous, we got applause as we landed yesterday. I had my representatives, my son Don, and representatives go there, and it was like a love fest.
Spare a thought for Denmark. They have no heavy artillery, no submarines, and no air defense systems. They're basically at the mercy of NATO and the US, which is why they're so cautious. Denmark has repeatedly said that Greenland is not for sale. But on the ground, opinion is split. Apparently, some Greenlanders do not mind the idea.
Denmark doesn't matter a lot to me. It's just a small country. We can't use them any longer because there are so many great powers in the world. So our partner should be a great power because Greenland is very wealthy. We have everything.
Because I think U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is too loud. His opinions, you can't count on us being taken over by force. I don't think so.
Greenland is an autonomous region. They also have a complicated colonial history with Denmark. On paper, they can become independent if they want to, but join the US? That looks like a long shot right now. Honestly, this is a wake-up call for Europe. They outsourced their defense and foreign policy to Washington, but they forgot a crucial question. What if the US no longer needs them? Donald Trump has brought that question to the fore, and Europe is struggling to answer it. Reports say they're planning a joint trip to Washington. Foreign ministers from Germany, France, and Poland will meet Trump later this month. They're calling it a show of unity. Well, we say good luck. handling Trump is all about subtlety, about knowing what to ignore and what to address. It's a job for cool and mature heads. In other words, not for Jagmeet Singh. He is the political equivalent of a hammer, except he hits everything other than the nail. And his latest target is Donald Trump. Listen to what Jagmeet Singh said, and I'm quoting here. "Cut the crap, Donald. No Canadian wants to join you. You come for Canadian jobs, Americans will pay a price." We say, forget Donald Trump. This is the real art of the deal. And he goes on. Jagmeet Singh has called Trump a bully and a troll. He has also issued a challenge to anyone running to be Prime Minister in Canada. He says, fight fire with fire, impose retaliatory tariffs on America. Apparently, this is Jagmeet Singh 2.0. His party sources say that he plans to be unplugged and unfiltered this year. Unplugged from reality, I guess, because mocking Donald Trump is the worst idea. He and his allies feed on the online banter. Just look at what happened to Jagmeet's former bestie, Justin Trudeau. He said there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would join the US, which is Canadian for no way. Now look at Elon Musk's reply. This is what he wrote to Trudeau. "Girl, you're not the governor of Canada anymore, so it doesn't matter what you say." Is that appropriate diplomatic talk? Far from it. But that's what you get from Trump and his allies. They want you to push back, to engage in these online spats. And Jagmeet Singh has walked right into it, though frankly it works well for India. Until now, Jagmeet and Trudeau had an ally in Washington. Joe Biden may not have criticized New Delhi, but he did openly support Canada. Trump's Khalistan policy is more ambiguous. Nobody knows if he will support India or Canada. If Jagmeet Singh keeps attacking him in this manner, he may just side with India. After all, Jagmeet is the Khalistani mascot in Ottawa. So New Delhi should enjoy this banter. As for Jagmeet Singh, his party is projected to finish third in the election. His chances of becoming Prime Minister are about the same as Trudeau's, 0. And Trudeau is not even in the race. So it's easy for Jagmeet Singh to mock Donald Trump, to promise retaliatory tariffs, because he knows that he doesn't have to follow through, that he won't be in power in Canada. In fact, this has been the highlight of his political career, shoot and scoot. We saw that against India as well. Jagmeet Singh kept egging Trudeau on. He supported the baseless allegations against India. He even sought sanctions on New Delhi, and Trudeau played along. Jagmeet and Trudeau dragged Canada into a standoff with India, but when the going got tough, he jumped ship. He scrapped his coalition with Justin Trudeau. Like I said, classic shoot and scoot. Jagmeet Singh was convinced that India killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Khalistani terrorist in Canada, but the probe is not going to plan. Canada had arrested 4 Indian nationals in this case. Reports say all 4 are now out on bail. We're talking about men who allegedly gunned down a Canadian national, according to their investigation at least. And if that is true, how did they get bail? Apparently because evidence is lacking. Now, bail does not mean innocent. These men have not been cleared by Canadian courts, but it does confirm what India has been saying, that Canada does not have proof. Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh kept blaming the Indian government, but they did not share any evidence. Looks like their prosecution is doing the very same thing. Of course, none of this will bother Trudeau anymore. He's leaving this mess to his successor. But what about Jagmeet Singh? He has led the New Democrats in 2 elections in Canada in 2019 and 2021, and both times they got trounced. Before Jagmeet Singh, this party, the NDP, had 44 seats. In 2019, they were cut down to 24, and in 2021, they got 25 seats. I guess he wasn't unplugged in those elections. Yet Jagmeet Singh is still the party leader, hopefully not for much longer though. Canadian media is piling the pressure on him. Just look at this op-ed in the National Post. This is what it says. Jagmeet Singh's future of irrelevancy cannot come soon enough. I guess for once, we agree with Canada. Now let's move to the US city of Los Angeles, which is dealing with devastating wildfires. 5 people have been killed, 130,000 have been evacuated, thousands of homes have burnt to the ground, and firefighters are struggling to contain the blaze. By some estimates, the total damages are worth $57 billion. That makes it one of the most expensive disasters ever recorded. At this point, the priority should be dealing with the tragedy, but US politicians are mired in a political battle. As Los Angeles continues to burn, they're fighting over fire hydrants and debating whether they had enough water. Our next report tells you more.
Welcome to the Hollywood Hills, a legendary neighborhood in the heart of Los Angeles. It's home to countless celebrities, a front row view of the world's most influential studios, and the iconic Hollywood sign. But tonight, it's not the lights of Tinseltown that are shining bright, it's the glow of destructive flames. Wildfires are tearing through Los Angeles, leaving devastation in their wake. The Hollywood Hills now stand directly in the line of fire. Across the city, the devastation is heartbreaking. At least 5 lives have been lost. Over 130,000 people have been forced to flee their homes.
Please leave the area.
Even the richest and most famous haven't been spared. Prominent celebrities like Paris Hilton and Adam Brody have lost everything. Entire productions have gone dark, the Oscars have delayed their nominations, and a city built on storytelling now grapples with a real-life tragedy.
Getting everything, our house is on fire. That's our house. You can tell it's next, and we're getting out.
I feel like Governor Newsom, if you're watching this, if you can please help out and reach out to us, that would be wonderful. We live here in Altadena, and yeah, we're just going through it.
The first flames ignited in the Pacific Palisades. Within hours, the inferno spread to 4 other areas: Pasadena, Sylmar, Hollywood Hills, and the Acton region. Only one fire has been contained so far. The others continue to ravage the city. Fast-moving flames, fanned by powerful winds, have leveled 1,500 structures. Many of them are multi-million-dollar homes. Officials are calling it the worst fire in Los Angeles' history and possibly one of the most expensive disasters ever recorded. Early estimates put the damage at a staggering $57 billion.
Well, it's kind of sad, you know. I mean, everybody's lost, not just this community. The community next door, I'm sure all the people up there have lost everything. It's just pretty devastating. This is pretty devastating. I don't think LA's seen anything like this before.
What's gone up in flames? I can't believe I'm standing here. I broke every blockade to get here. It's just so sad. Excuse my language. This is
So what caused this devastating fire? Wildfires are a natural part of life in the American West. They even play a crucial role in the ecosystem. Southern California experienced 2 decades of drought, followed by 2 unusually wet years that triggered explosive vegetation growth. This lush growth dried out after 8 months without rain, turning the region into a tinderbox ready to ignite. And this winter, it was one of the driest California has ever seen. All it took was a spark, a single catalyst. Combined with extreme winds, the fires quickly spun out of control. While investigations continue to determine the immediate cause, one thing is certain: climate change is a major player in this tragedy. But as Los Angeles keeps burning, the raging inferno has led to a political battle. California is a blue state headed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. US President Joe Biden, too, was supposed to be in Rome today, but he cancelled his visit to monitor the situation.
Trump, did you make a decision?
But President-elect Donald Trump is using this tragedy to take aim at Governor Newsom. He's accused the state government of gross incompetence. He claims fire hydrants ran dry when they were needed the most. And he's criticized policies that prioritized preserving wetlands and wildlife, arguing that these decisions have now come back to haunt Los Angeles. Trump's comments have sparked a fresh wave of controversy, turning the devastation into a political flashpoint.
The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water.
Trump says it's an issue he raised during campaigning, and his BFF Elon Musk has chimed in. He says LA's incompetence and the fire department prioritizing DEI, which stands for diversity, equality and inclusion, has left Los Angeles to die right now. So the city faces not only a natural disaster, but a political and social reckoning. This tragedy has exposed fault lines in policy and preparedness, with accusations and blame games shifting as quickly as the fires themselves. While residents grapple with loss and uncertainty, the larger questions loom. How will California adapt to a new era of climate-driven disasters? Who will take responsibility for the failures? And what does this tragedy mean for the future of a city built on dreams? For now, the fires rage on, leaving Los Angeles scarred and searching for answers.
Let's turn to the UK now, where politicians are training their guns on Pakistan and talking about cutting aid. This is about the so-called grooming gangs, groups of men who sexually abuse and rape young girls. They've been doing it for many years, and it's all documented. Now there are calls for a national inquiry on the issue. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is trying to avoid it, but the pressure is mounting. And where does Pakistan come in? Most of these gangs are made up of Pakistani men, and that has become the biggest flashpoint. Some British politicians want action against Pakistan. They say cut off foreign aid. And leading that charge is MP Rupert Lowe. He's a member of the UK's Reform Party. He says Pakistan must accept and jail deported rapists. Only then should aid be given. And how much money are we talking about? Last year, it was around $50 million. It is set to triple in the coming years. In fact, Pakistan is the biggest recipient of UK aid, and Elon Musk is supporting this move. He says the UK owes it to the grooming victims. Some diaspora groups are also unhappy with Keir Starmer. His ministers have often called the gangs Asian. But Hindu and Sikh groups have objected to it. They say most of the gangs are Pakistani, so call them Pakistani, not Asian. Tonight, let's dig deeper into this issue. Why is the focus on Pakistani grooming gangs? At the outset, let me say this, race and religion are a factor here, but they're not the cause. These gangs are not raping girls because they're Pakistani or Muslim. The far right may want to think that, but that is not the reason. The reason is that the system created in Pakistan and the UK is flawed, a system that does not punish abusers. First, look at some numbers. More than 4,200 Pakistani children were abused in 2023. That's almost 11 per day. Now, sex education is virtually non-existent in Pakistan, and so is legal support. They did not have a national child abuse law until 2020. They also did not have a national sex offenders registry until 2024. All of this makes abuse quite rampant in Pakistan. On the other side, the UK's visa system has been called weak. Criminal checks are not mandatory, so people coming in just have to self-declare. Reports say hundreds of foreign criminals have been allowed to enter the UK. These are convicted murderers, rapists and child abusers. They're all allowed. They basically fell through the cracks in the system. And this works both ways. One such example is that of Sohail Ayaz. He was a Pakistani bookkeeper and accountant. He was wanted in Italy for abusing children. Yet he was granted a UK visa. In 2008, this man started working at a British charity. He was later identified, arrested and deported. Guess what Pakistan did with him? He was appointed to advise the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government. But like most abusers, he did not change his ways. He was caught again in 2019, though not before he had raped multiple victims in Pakistan. In total, Ayaz admitted to abusing 30 children, 30. Clearly, this is systemic failure. And you can't avoid the issue simply because of race or religion. Even Pakistanis admit the problem. Let me quote a 2018 report in The Dawn. This is the largest English newspaper in Pakistan. Look at what they said. I'm quoting here. I was offended by the use of Pakistanis and Muslims, believing that it was wrong for mainstream broadcasters to narrow down so much on a group of people based on their country of origin or religion. Later, when more cases came to light, it dawned on me that the sections of British media describing the perpetrators as Pakistanis were not off the mark. So the problem does exist, and Britons have a right to be angry. Let me tell you what happened to the Rockdale grooming gang. Their ringleader was convicted in 2012, 12 years ago. He was deported, he was ordered to be deported back to Pakistan. And guess where he is now? He is still in Rockdale, in a £140,000 apartment fighting deportation because Pakistan refuses to take him back. It is not racist to raise these problems. It is not racist to question Pakistan's weak laws, especially when it is wreaking havoc on other parts of the world. What I'm about to tell you now may sound like a plot out of a crime thriller, but it happened for real. It includes a Japanese crime syndicate, an Iranian nuclear consignment, and an American operation. The story revolves around a man called Takeshi Ebisawa. He's 60 years old, a Japanese gang lord, and now a global headliner. He tried to sell nuclear material to the Iranians and was caught by the Americans. Now he has pleaded guilty and faces a life behind bars. His story begins in Tokyo's shadowy streets. Ebisawa was a criminal, but not your regular criminal. He was a high-ranking boss in the Yakuza. That's Japan's notorious crime syndicate, the Yakuza. It is based in Japan, but its operations are spread across the world, in Sri Lanka, in Myanmar, in Thailand, and even in the United States. In 2020, Ebisawa approached a man, someone he believed was a high-level dealer, someone connected to an Iranian general. But this dealer was in fact an undercover agent. He was a man working for the DEA, the American Drug Enforcement Agency. Ebisawa obviously had no idea. He remained in touch with this agent and carefully crafted a deal. Then 6 months later, he made his move. Ebisawa sent an email with an offer, 50 tons of uranium and thorium for $6.8 million. And the email was not just words, it included photographs, images of a dark, rocky material along with the pictures. There was a Geiger counter. This is a device used to measure radiation levels. Now, Ebisawa claimed that he was sourcing them from Myanmar. He was offering uranium and thorium. And what did he want in return? He wanted surface-to-air missiles, among other things. Then he doubled down on his claims. Ebisawa provided the American agent with yellow cake. This is a uranium concentrate, yellow cake. US authorities tested it. They found that the sample contained uranium, thorium, and plutonium. And all of this happened when Ebisawa was traveling to the US, so he was promptly arrested. Along with him was a 61-year-old Thai national. He too was arrested. Both were hit by a flurry of charges, and now the Japanese crime boss has pleaded guilty. He could be looking at a life in prison. But Ebisawa's arrest is just the tip of the iceberg. This case shines a spotlight on the illegal trade of nuclear materials. And it's a problem that has existed for some time now. In the 1990s, over 1 million Russians worked in nuclear facilities. By that time, the Soviet Union had collapsed. This led to an economic crisis. So these Russians found a way out, some of them at least. They would smuggle classified nuclear material and then sell it to the highest bidder. The Russian government did crack down, but the threat could not be eliminated. Since 1993, the global nuclear watchdog has recorded more than 4,200 such incidents where nuclear material was smuggled and trafficked, not just to states, but also to non-state actors. They too are getting access to nuclear materials, like the Al-Qaeda. Reports suggest that the Al-Qaeda chanced upon a shipment of enriched uranium. That's the kind of uranium that you need to make a nuclear bomb, enriched uranium. And it's not just nuclear material. Take Abdul Qadir Khan, for example. He is known as the father of Pakistan's nuclear program. He not only built a bomb for the terror state of Pakistan, he also sold this technology to others. He smuggled nuclear technology to several nations, the likes of Iran, Libya, and North Korea. So Ebisawa's story is a grim reminder. The shadowy trade of nuclear materials is not just fiction. It is a terrifying reality. A battle that transcends borders and comes with catastrophic implications. Our next story is about Iran. The country is looking for a new capital. President Masoud Pezeshkian has been talking about this for months now. And now his official spokesperson has confirmed it. Iran's regime is looking to relocate. It wants to leave Tehran and make its way to the sunny coast of Makran. But is this even feasible? Does Iran have the resources to move its capital? And what makes Makran so special? Our next report has the details.
Tehran is the current capital of Iran. It is Iran's most important city by far. Tehran is around 4 times the size of Iran's second city, Mashhad. The capital and its surrounding region are home to about 20% of Iran's population and 30% of Iran's GDP. It's the definition of a primate city, disproportionately larger and more important than any other. But there's always a problem with putting all your eggs in one basket. If the basket breaks, you're in big trouble. Tehran is a basket that is breaking. It is bursting at the seams because of overpopulation. The water supply there is stretched to the brink. Tehran reportedly consumes 25% of Iran's drinking water, and there are frequent water shortages there. Industries and heavy traffic are taking a toll on the air quality, choking the city every winter. Tehran also lies on major fault lines. It is prone to earthquakes. A big one could kill millions of people and destroy Iran's already fragile economy. So, President Masoud Pezeshkian has come up with a plan. He wants to move the capital. Iran has considered moving capitals before. It has commissioned at least 6 feasibility studies since 1989. Iran's parliament passed a law in 2014 mandating that the government take relocation seriously. Former presidents Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and Hassan Rouhani both considered the idea as well. But despite all this, the needle hasn't really moved. Even the current government spokesperson says there's no hurry.
We are seeking assistance from academics, elites and experts in this field, including engineering, sociology or economics. It is definitely in the Makran region in the south. Hopefully, we can proceed in the most effective direction, although the matter is not urgent.
Iran is taking it slow, but it seems to have identified the new capital region, the Makran coast. Makran is an arid coastal belt, split between Iran and Pakistan. It isn't the first place you would think of for a new capital, but Iran has a plan.
Makran is being considered. In fact, the region of Makran, and of course, 2 councils have been formed. One is a council that is assessing the problems of the capital, and 2, a council that is working on the sea-oriented economy, and one of its assignments is working on the measurements required for Makran area.
Iran wants its new capital to be coastal. It wants to take advantage of the trade possibilities and cut on transportation costs. Pezeshkian said, and I quote, "Transporting raw materials from the south to the center, processing them, and then returning them south for export drains our competitive capacity. We must shift the country's economic and political center to the south and closer to the sea." That is why they have zeroed in on Makran. It fits all the required criteria. But is this plan realistic? Moving capitals is rare, but it has been done before. Turkey moved its capital from Istanbul to Ankara in the 1920s. Brazil moved it from Rio de Janeiro to Brasilia. The old capitals remain economic power centers, but the new administrative capitals are successful in their own right. They help relieve some of the pressure from the bigger cities. The problem with Iran's plan isn't functionality, it is finances. The country is reeling from Western sanctions. It has an abundance of resources, but hardly anyone to trade with, because the West has hammered Iran's economy. Iran's exports may become more competitive with the coastal capital. It may be able to reduce costs and offer terms that potential partners can't refuse. But how will Iran afford to set up a new capital in the first place? Money is the biggest hurdle for Iran right now. So while Pezeshkian's plan might be great in the long run, he might not have the funds to begin the journey.
Earlier this week, we told you about India and the Taliban, how India was backing the Taliban against Pakistan. Pakistan carried out an attack on Afghan soil. India supported the Taliban's version of events. That was part one of this developing story. Part two took place yesterday in Dubai, when India and the Taliban held high-level talks. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and Afghanistan's acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, they met in Dubai. Now, Muttaqi is a member of the Taliban regime. Since India does not recognize the regime, he is seen as the acting foreign minister. That part has not changed. But the high-level talks indicate a shift, a reset between New Delhi and Kabul. It shows that India is willing to engage with the Taliban at the highest levels. Let's take a closer look at this. Both diplomats flew down to Dubai for the sit-down. During the talks, India's focus was on the Afghan people. India has been providing humanitarian assistance to them for years now, and it has agreed to extend this assistance. New Delhi will also support two key areas: Afghanistan's health sector and the rehabilitation of Afghan refugees. This is the need of the hour. A number of Afghans live in other countries, in neighboring nations like Pakistan and Iran, both of which have been cracking down on these Afghans. Pakistan is particularly harsh. It has been expelling Afghans in large numbers and piling new burdens on the ones who remain. Millions of these refugees have been forced to go back. The Taliban are looking to rehabilitate them, to give them a place to live, and it wants India to help. New Delhi agreed to do this, to keep supporting the ordinary people of Afghanistan. But India was not just meeting with the Taliban to act as some guardian angel. This is geopolitics. India has interests too, and India wants to protect them. One area of concern is security. Afghanistan has been used to support terrorist attacks against India. This has happened in the past when the Taliban were close to Pakistan. India wants to make sure that this never happens again. And the Taliban understand New Delhi's concerns. They reassured Foreign Secretary Misri. They said, and I'm quoting, "Afghanistan does not pose a threat to any nation." It's a bit rich coming from the Taliban, but this is what they told India. Let's hope that this proves true. India's next concern was economics. New Delhi has poured a lot of money into Afghanistan over the years, about $3 billion by some estimates. India has funded a number of infrastructure development projects. The Taliban want this to continue. India does not want all that money to go to waste, so it is trying to secure these investments. And not just in Afghanistan, in neighboring Iran as well. India is building the Chabahar port in Iran's Balochistan region. This will allow India to bypass Pakistan and access Iran, Afghanistan, and all the Central Asian countries. India has spent millions on Chabahar as well, so it wants to maximize the port's potential. That's where the Taliban talks come into play again. India needs to engage with them so that trade can flow all the way north, and the Taliban have agreed to this too. Trade through the port will be promoted. This will help with India's humanitarian aid deliveries as well. So it works out well for both sides. That was everything that they agreed on. The Taliban, of course, wants more. More engagements, more trade, and more people-to-people contacts. They want an easier visa regime for Afghan entrepreneurs, medical patients, and students. India has agreed to look into this too. All this shows that India has some sway over the Taliban regime. It is forging a working relationship. Over time, this should be used to help the Afghan people further, especially the Afghan women. Because no matter the geopolitics, India cannot simply look away and ignore their plight. It must use whatever leverage it has to speak up for them. Do you like hot dogs? If you are in North Korea, you can't eat, cook, or sell them anymore, because Pyongyang has outlawed hot dogs. The beloved American food is facing Kim Jong-un's ire. As part of his war on foreign influence, it has claimed countless victims already, from South Korea's tteokbokki to Japan's sushi, from skinny jeans to high heels, from K-pop to foreign books. Even certain haircuts are banned in the hermit kingdom of North Korea, and now hot dogs are going to the dogs. What does this mean for the country? Here is a report.
What do you think counts as treason? Trying to illegally overthrow a government, conspiring with enemies of your nation? Well, if you're in North Korea, it could take much, much less. Now, eating hot dogs is treasonous in the Hermit Kingdom because Pyongyang has outlawed hot dogs. Those eating, cooking or selling the beloved American food could be detained and even sentenced to the country's labor camps. It sounds like a bit much, but if you plan to argue, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because apparently, Kim logic is the supreme logic. You see, hot dogs are very American, and they have found a fan in North Korea. People were eating the food by dipping it in the Korean soup budae-jjigae, also known as the army base stew. This is a South Korean-American fusion dish. The stew was banned in 2017, but people couldn't stop eating the hot dogs with or without the soup. So now a hot dog ban has come in paw with the soup ban, pardon the pun. Because Kim is trying his best to expunge Western influence from his country. So hot dogs have been buried along with budae-jjigae and tteokbokki, the South Korean dish, and even Japanese sushi. You may ask, is North Korea really in a position to ban food? This is a country where millions are living in poverty. The population is largely malnourished. So banning food in a country which doesn't have enough food to eat in the first place seems a little counterintuitive. But why feed the people when you can embody cancel culture and tighten your leash on hot dogs? Picture this. You live in North Korea. Want to get a haircut? If you're a woman, Kim has been kind enough to limit your confusion. There are only 14 options to choose from. And if you're married, hooray! Your hair will be low maintenance because long hair is outlawed. If you're a man, things may get tricky because your hair can't be longer than 5 centimeters. So carry a ruler to the barber shop. Now level 2 awaits you. What will you wear? Well, let's rephrase. What shouldn't you wear? No short skirts, no big logos, nothing flashy, no high heels, no designer shoes, no skinny jeans. Clearly, Kim knows what's up with Gen Z, so much so that he's banned these things. He also knows that fashion clashes are the worst, so he can wear a leather jacket, but it's outlawed for the commoners. What about life goals? Which career should you pick? If you plan on being a rock star, don't. Mullets are outlawed, so are spiky or dyed hair. And if you plan on becoming the next dictator, don't. Kim Jong-un's current look is patented. If you get a similar haircut, punishment awaits you. What about marriage? Well, white wedding dresses are also outlawed in North Korea. But no matter what you wear to your wedding, know that it's for the keeps, because anyone seeking divorce will be sent to the labor camps. Do you know what else is banned in the country? Foreign TV, movies and books, South Korean entertainment, international calls, sports cars, iPhones, slang and Christmas. Because even Santa will have difficulty leaving this country if he gets here. It's illegal for North Koreans to leave without government permission. And if you don't oblige to the countless demands on the treason list, you will face torture, forced labor, life imprisonment and even execution. Pyongyang is world-renowned for its human rights violations. And now, in this war on treasonous foreign influence, hot dogs are Kim Jong-un's latest hit job. Safe to say, the Hermit Kingdom is going to the dogs.
For our next story tonight, let's go back in history. 110 years to be precise. On this day in 1915, a Pravasi, an overseas Indian, returned to his homeland. You must have heard of him. His name was M.K. Gandhi. The world knows him as Mahatma Gandhi. On this day in 1915, he returned to India from South Africa, after which he led the freedom movement and transformed countless lives. So this day, this milestone is celebrated by India with the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, a day dedicated to overseas Indians. Every 2 years, India holds this convention. It honors the contributions of the Indian diaspora to their homeland. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the 18th edition. It is being held in the state of Odisha. It is themed Diaspora's Contribution to Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat means a developed India. The world's most populous nation wants to be a developed nation by 2047. Viksit Bharat is India's ambitious roadmap, and this road is smoother thanks to overseas Indians.
सोशल वैल्यूज हैं जो आप सभी वहां की सोसाइटी में ऐड करते हैं. हम सिर्फ मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी ही नहीं है, बल्कि डेमोक्रेसी हमारी लाइफ का हिस्सा है, हमारी जीवन पद्धति है. हमें डायवर्सिटी सिखानी नहीं पड़ती, हमारा जीवन ही डायवर्सिटी से चलता है.
According to the United Nations, 18 million Indians live overseas. They form the world's biggest diaspora, and they are a global asset because they are well educated. They lead in the global pool of educated immigrants, and they earn more. Many of them are doctors, engineers, or tech leaders. Take the US, for instance. This is the world's biggest economy. Last year, India contributed about 2 million degree holders to this country. That's 14% of their total educated immigrant population. 79% of the Indians living there are college graduates, which is almost double of the nationwide average, which stands at 34%. Which brings us to the earnings. Indians are the highest earning ethnic minority group in the US. Look at the median household earnings. The nationwide average is around $64,000. For Indian households in the US, it is over $123,000. That's almost double of the average. And this is not just about the US. This pattern is playing out the world over. Indians have become an indispensable force for countries across the world and by proxy for India. They are bolstering India's economy. You see, many Indians living abroad send money back home. These are called remittances. And they infuse billions of dollars into the Indian economy. Last year, this number stood at $129 billion, making India the top recipient of remittances globally. This is almost equal to the annual budgets of Bangladesh and Pakistan combined. This inflow boosts foreign exchange reserves. It drives development in rural areas, and it provides support to families. But their contribution is way more than monetary. You see, members of diaspora act as bridge builders. That's what they're often called, because they help build ties with other countries. They bring advantages to their new and original country, and they transfer skills and knowledge. Study after study shows that. They help drive progress in their home country. They increase their home country's recognition on the world stage. They fuel its soft power. They can also influence policy making in both their home country and the one they live in. For instance, when members of a diaspora are involved in politics, they're more keen to increase trade between the two nations. So there are many upsides. And we can see this with Indians overseas. They are growing in influence, socially and politically. They're increasingly visible in global politics. From the US to the UK to Singapore, they are expanding India's cultural footprint. They're burnishing India's image and fueling economic opportunities through tourism and exports. So whether you look at the numbers or beyond, you will see that Indians stand out. They've positioned India as the global talent headquarters, as a country building a global workforce.
आने वाले कई दशकों तक भारत दुनिया का सबसे यंग और स्किल्ड पॉपुलेशन वाला देश बना रहेगा. ये भारत ही है जहां से दुनिया की एक बड़ी स्किल डिमांड पूरी होगी. आपने देखा होगा दुनिया के अनेक देश अब भारत के स्किल्ड यूथ का दोनों हाथों से स्वागत कर रहे हैं.
In a globalized era, the diaspora only becomes more important with each passing year. Whether it is technology, best practices, or resources, be it tourism, trade, or investment, the two-way flows you enable are invaluable.
This is not to say that there are no challenges. To create a global workforce or to achieve Viksit Bharat ambitions, India will have to do more than leveraging the diaspora's financial resources. India must tap into their knowledge, their experience, and their global networks. With innovative policies and platforms, India wants to do just that. I'm sure you've heard of Infosys. It is one of the largest IT companies in India. Their Mysuru campus is in the news right now, all thanks to a new visitor, an elusive leopard. It's been roaming around the campus since December 31st, and obviously this is a security issue, so the company asked some of its employees to work from home and cue the jokes. You see, Infosys was co-founded by Narayan Murthy, a giant of the Indian IT sector, but recently he's been under fire for his opinions on workplace culture. He has advocated for 6-day work weeks. He says people should work for 14 hours a day. And yes, he opposes work from home. So the internet cracked the obvious joke. If you want remote work in Infosys, let a leopard loose. Take a look. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is holidaying in India's Kerala with his family. South Korean protesters keep warm on the coldest day of winter yet with foam blankets and cup noodles, and humanoid robots walk, talk and flirt at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 2007, Apple CEO Steve Jobs introduced the first iPhone. It was Apple's risky move into the mobile phone market. The first iPhone offered a touchscreen and easy access to the internet. At that time, it was revolutionary, changing the smartphone market forever. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
또 탄건 오류들 때문에 얼마나 많은 백성들이 삶을 수탈당했는지. 정답! 밝혀! 저는 다 연결을 보도록 할 텐데요. 여기서 공부자라고 알려드리고 하겠습니다. 큰 박수로 알려드리기 바랍니다. 나와주십시오. 하고 싶었던 말이 하나 있습니다. 20, 30대들!
Feels like
자리가 많아서
más guapo.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.